Welcome to Around the 412. We are part of allsteelers.com and proudly presented by Crowworthy, where winners are serving winners coast to coast with sports, gambling, fantasy, and more. You can follow Crowworthy at Crowworthy Takes on Twitter. You can visit us at crowworthy.com. You can also check out the Crowworthy Pittsburgh City page for podcasts just like this one, blogs, and more. I'm Tyler, and with me as always is Smitty. How's it going, man? Nice shave. Love the mustache.
I told you guys. I told everybody that I was with this past weekend that I was shaving everything besides the mustache. I didn't hold completely true to that. I decided to keep the soul patch, but either way, the beard's gone. So,
how long are you gonna keep it like that? Are you gonna steadily keep it clean shaven?
I hate shaving, so probably not. It's probably just gonna however it's gonna.
I mean, I hate shaving too. Like I shave my neck, like underneath my beard, probably once or twice a week, but. Mm-hmm. I haven't been clean shaven in over 3 years. So I just hate shaving completely.
This is not how I expected to kick off tonight's show, but hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for tuning into this episode. It's going to be a little different today. We realized while we were putting the show together, not a whole lot to talk about in the world of sports to try to compile a show. And it's been a while since we did just like an AMA show, Ask Us Anything. For those that don't know. So we took to Twitter to get some questions from you guys. We're going to answer every single one that was thrown at us. It could be about sports, about things completely unrelated to sports. I think we got questions about, well, it's related to sports, but we got a question about the Euros in there, so not Pittsburgh related. We got a question about restaurants, something to do with Batman. I mean, it's all over the place. So I'm excited to jump into this. And without further ado, let's just get rolling here. We're going to start just the way that it pops up for me looking at the replies. So it starts with Sarge. Shout out to Sarge. He said 2 questions, just trying to juice up the show. I don't know why he threw that in there. Would you take back the back-to-back cups for the Penguins if it meant the Pirates winning a World Series? So let's start there because the second one's not related to it. It's not like a 2-parter. That's just a separate question.
Right.
No.
Absolutely not. And I have...
If you said one, maybe, but...
Listen, I have 2 reasons why I'm not taking those back. One, clearly if you watch our show and you watch the videos, I love hockey. I love the Penguins. So I'm not taking away winning the Stanley Cup back-to-back. They were the first team to do it in almost 20 years. They're the only team to do it in the salary cap era. So I'm not taking back that memory of them doing it. Also, whenever you're talking about the players on the team, specifically Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, and specifically Sidney Crosby and himself, that back-to-back championship, up until those cups, those 2 were looked at as kind of underachievers because they had only had 1 cup and they had this great team for the 2010s, and they were first-round exits like majority of the time before those back-to-back cups. So, no, I'm not taking that back because Sidney Crosby winning those back-to-back cups, winning the back-to-back Conn Smythe, and if you want to throw in the World Cup of Hockey in there as well, and he was the MVP of that tournament as well, that solidified him as no lower than a top 5 player of all time. So I'm not taking that back, even for a Pirates World Series.
I mean, it's historic. The 18-month pace
that
he had, that 18-month, I said pace, stretch that he had was just ridiculous. It's better than any 18-month stretch for any hockey player ever, what he was able to accomplish. So, yeah, I mean, when you talk about it at that level, I'm just thinking, just the entire reason that we watch sports is to create memories. Like, that's all we have. Once it's over, and then it's all about trying to do it again the next season. But those memories of doing it stay with you forever. And I'm sure the Pirates, hypothetically in this scenario, winning one would create a memory that's going to last much longer because with them, we don't even know if we're going to get to see that in our lifetimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, I'm with you where it's like the fact that it was back-to-back and to at least for right now, and we'll see what happens with the Tampa Bay Lightning, only team to win back-to-back in the salary cap era. So, and that hopefully holds true. I'm not even going to talk about the smile on your face. I don't know if you're going to say something about Tampa Bay manipulating the salary cap or not, but I'm like, I'm not even going to touch that part of it.
They did, but we can move on.
His second question was, besides Ben, because he seems to be the only shoo-in on the roster right now, what current Steelers do you think will realistically make the Hall of Fame? I mean, the first one that comes to mind is TJ Watt.
Yeah.
Just because, and he's still very early in his career, and obviously, if he were to fall off of a cliff right now, that's not going to happen. But he's the first guy that comes to mind that's on like a Hall of Fame trajectory. I think, if they were to win a Super Bowl in the near future, like Cam Hayward might have a solid case. I think David DeCastro as well, if he got a Super Bowl, would have a solid case. We've talked about we've had Minka on here, and he's a player that through his first 3 seasons, he's on that trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to say Joe Hayden, but I don't think so. I mean, he has a very good resume as well, but I don't think so. And
I feel like
outside
he
of
would
that,
have to win a Super Bowl. But even then, I don't think he would get in.
yeah. So for me, I think the easy
Ricky
answer
said Najee with the laugh emoji.
Hey, speaking of Najee, this is his merch line right here, Najee.net. You can pick it up. This is the colorway that he put out literally on draft night.
So if you guys want one of those shirts, if we get Najee on our show, I'm going to give away 5 of them. So,
and also completely unrelated but semi-related, Juju Smith-Schuster recently switched agencies, and he now has the same agent as Najee.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I know people try to tie those things in together when it's time. Like for example, like Juju's going to be looking for another new contract, and every time that we have that there's a free agent, people are like, oh, they share agents. Maybe that those guys are like buddies because they share the same agent. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Are you in agreement though? Like realistically looking at this,
yeah. TJ is the only, but even like TJ, if he got hurt or his career ended, retired today, whatever, he's not a Hall of Famer right now. But like he's on the trajectory. I think you could say the same thing for Minka. At least like back-to-back all pros, the way he plays. I think he's on that type of trajectory. But add in the Super Bowl, then you're right. Like guys like Cam Hayward, David DeCastro, they have a bigger case for getting into the Hall of Fame.
And I think that just saying that, it's such a shame that that's even because David DeCastro, I understand, not the same player last year, and hopefully it was just due to injury, and we see him get back to form. He's been one of the best guards in football, since his sophomore season. His rookie year was kind of rough. Obviously, it started out with him accidentally tearing Pouncey's knee up. But since then, he's been one of the best guards in football. And then Cam Hayward is probably and this is not just a biased opinion. You look around the league and people will say the same thing. He is one of the most underrated defensive linemen, not just playing right now, but I think all time.
When you look at the current defensive tackles in the league, obviously you got Aaron Donald number 1, but how far down do you have to go to get to Cam Hayward? I mean, honestly, he's probably no lower than 3 in my opinion.
And I think that there's definitely a significant drop off after Aaron Donald. But yeah, you're right. You start thinking about Cam Hayward, Fletcher Cox for the Eagles, and those are the guys that are behind him. But real quick, before we move on to another Twitter question, Ricky said, "What kind of contract do you give TJ? Years, money?"
Years, I would say.
What don't you give him?
You're probably giving him 5-year deal.
I think that's a sweet spot. Yeah,
and then money. Are you looking for total amount or per year? I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. The math will add up. But I would say if I'm TJ, I know I'm worth $25 million a year.
Mm-hmm. Now the question is, I could see him taking less to stay here.
So can I.
I know that's not a question, but I just wanted to say that first. But I'll ask this question because I know that this could be very tough to answer. Do you think he ends up becoming the highest paid defensive player in football?
Who is right now?
Is it Myles Garrett?
I honestly have no clue. That's definitely putting me on the spot. Now I don't know who it is. It could be Myles Garrett. What did he get?
No, wait, 20? Aaron Donald. No. Defensive player in the NFL, Bosa. Joey Bosa? Really? I mean, what are we doing here? Yeah, Bosa signed a 5-year deal worth $135 million, 102 guaranteed. So that's the highest paid defensive contract of all time. So does he surpass that? So
that means he would have to make
$27 million
a year.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay.
That's crazy
that Bosa got that, to be honest with you.
Listen, it's not
one full season.
Yeah, and it's not that TJ's not deserving. He very well is. But I think he will take less to help the Steelers out cap-wise to be able to sign other players.
The thing that's tough, too, is considering him an outside linebacker as opposed to a defensive end somehow makes him worth less. Whereas, it's kind of just one thing now, like edge rusher.
Yeah,
but
listen,
still, when you're talking about
like,
contracts, there's that difference.
if you're asking me, I would say he's more valuable than a guy like Myles Garrett because he can drop back in coverage, even just a little bit. You don't really see Myles Garrett. Like, Myles Garrett's a true defensive end. He's not going to do that, really.
Yeah.
And he's just as good as Myles Garrett as rushing the passer. So I don't see why it would. I mean, it's great if he costs less. That's fine with me. But
Yeah,
it doesn't really make sense.
yeah. They're gonna need some money
head.
for Minka. You got hopefully Devin
Hopefully
Bush
to
down
sign.
the line, but you
You're
can't think
also
about that right
hoping.
now.
Maybe you're not hoping, but you look to see if you can sign Juju again next year.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
All right, moving on. Tim Shady wants to know if we faced off against NS9 in a punt, pass, and kick competition, who would win?
We would.
I think this is easily us. One, we're not talking baseball here. Even if we were, I'd still say us. But that's solely their focus. We're kind of all over the map. Looks can be deceiving, but in a punt, pass, and kick, I got heavy money on the Around the 412 crew.
We would absolutely destroy them.
I don't know if anybody's ever seen the collective calf muscles on the Around the 412 guys.
Listen, I think I've brought it up on our show before, but I played 12 years of organized soccer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the passing part, like maybe they could throw farther than me. I don't know, but
you know who has a kind of decent arm? Sarge.
Really?
And if we can get Sarge can be included in this. I mean,
he's a
he does
YouTube
our
editor.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But like punt, pass, and kick. 2 out of the 3 is kicking. I played soccer for 12 years. I'm demolishing anybody on North Shore 9's roster.
Okay, but that one was kind of supposed to be funny. But yeah, if they're about it, let's get it rolling. Mike wants to know, why does it seem like Pirate fans would rather have nice guys that lose than jerks that win? I wouldn't care how big of a jerk a player is if they help bring a World Series to Pittsburgh.
Can I get some context for that question?
Yeah, something. That's the thing, is I must have missed whatever took place that is the reason that this question's being asked. I mean, I'm definitely with Mike, and I could care less what the guys are actually like. I think that the problem is too many people look at athletes thinking that they're supposed to be role models and stuff, and it's it's great if they are. That makes them more likable. But as long as they go out there and do whatever their job is, whatever their respective sport is, and they can do it at a high level, I could care less, because all I'm paying for or watching for is them to win games. I don't care that they're a great guy.
Well, I just want to know what he meant by jerk. I didn't know if he meant someone like Fernando Tatis that will bat flip and dance on people and stuff. No.
I mean, Mike's definitely pro that stuff, so
yeah,
it's definitely not that. I'm just wondering. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I really don't. As long as they're fine off the field, I don't care what they are on the field. Would you consider AJ Burnett a jerk?
That's a good question.
I'm sure the opposing players probably would.
Yeah,
his teammates probably
see, that's the thing is, and that's probably all on the field though too. Because obviously I follow him on Instagram and stuff. Has a great relationship.
Garrett Cole. Do you see that answer he gave the other day? He's definitely not a jerk.
And that's the thing. I mean, it's hard that we don't personally know a lot of these guys. We see, obviously, when they do something terrible, like a former Pirates reliever, that obviously makes them a terrible person. But as far as just trying to read their body language with things that they do on the field, is Trevor Bauer a terrible person? Is he a jerk?
Yeah. If by jerk you mean you just have the confidence and attitude on the field, like a Trevor Bauer, like an AJ Burnett. A Joe Musgrove, even in a way. I would say sometimes
hopefully Mitch Keller comes back up.
Dude, don't even get me started.
Hey, Joe Hanrahan. I think that if Mitch Keller's going to succeed, it's going to be afterwards with Joe Hanrahan. And if that happens, Joe Hanrahan's probably going to end up being in the majors sooner than later if he turns Mitch Keller around. So,
well, that's miracle work right now. So
yeah, Josh Bell just hit a home run. Ricky's saying, so that figures.
Lovely. But yeah, I don't mind. But I don't know why the Pirates can't do that. I'm sorry, Mike. I have no idea. I don't know why they do a lot of things.
Moving on, Ross says if it meant the Penguins and Steelers, wouldn't win another championship for the next 20 years, but the Pirates win 3 World Series, would you take it?
Yes.
For reference, he would.
Yes.
I mean, okay, well, think about it. Think about this. We're already since 17, we don't have a championship, right? So 18, 19, 20, 20. We're already 4 years into this. We're 1/5 of we're 20% through this 20 years that he's talking about.
Yeah. It is so easily a yes for me because as much as I love the Steelers and Penguins and I want them to win the championship every single year and get as many as possible, I have never seen a Pirates World Series, and I don't know if I will ever see a Pirates World Series, and that is not a hyperbole. I literally have no clue if that's ever going to happen in my lifetime. I feel like a Cubs fan from 1908 to 2016. So if I got to see 3 in 20 years, yes, absolutely. Because I've already seen 2 Super Bowls in my lifetime, and the Penguins have been to 4 Stanley Cups and won 3 of them. Yes, absolutely. I'm taking this World Series.
I'm glad that Drew seems to like my mustache, by the way. He just let me know. Tweeted at us. All right. Yeah, I think we're in agreement there that we would both take 3 World Series in a 20-year span if it meant not seeing the other 2 win one. I've seen the Pens win 3, technically 5. Don't remember the first 2. The Steelers win 2. That's what I'm saying, dude. Like, obviously,
listen,
Nick is much older than us. Just kidding, Nick. But
I would love for the Pirates to win 1 in my lifetime, let alone 3 in 20 years. Absolutely, I'm doing that deal.
It'd also be the most impressive for a small market team to win 3 World Series in 20 years in a non-salary cap sport.
I mean, if you're thinking about it logically, based off of the Pirates' windows, you would assume that all 3 would come like in a row based off of their window.
Yeah, probably they'd have to do it like 3 and 7 years at most, probably.
Yeah.
Josh Bell, Payne. Yeah. Go figure. We're talking about the Pirates, and Josh Bell hits a home run against us. Moving on, our guy Eddie P. Who wins in a fight, a Smitty-sized duck or 5 duck-sized Tylers?
Listen, a Smitty-sized duck, easily. And let me tell you why. Because you know, like the thing that where it's like, you ever heard the question, how many 4th graders or how many 10-year-olds could you fight?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Listen, if you're even making that smaller, because I think I could take on a lot of like 10-year-olds. I could beat the crap out of them. So if you're making that even smaller to the size of a duck, then yeah, I'm literally stomping on myself. I will use myself as a punt, pass, and kick football. So yeah, the Smitty-sized duck. You're talking about a duck who, I mean, I know ducks aren't aggressive, but geese can be. And if you're relating it to geese are bigger than ducks. So you're making a duck that is 5'7" and girthy. You kidding me? Like, that is intimidating. That easily takes a cake.
Yeah, this one wasn't hard for me either. Also, that got a response saying Smitty-sized duck, retweet if swoosh. It's my guy Swoosh. That's why he said that at the end. But he's also in agreement with that. Okay, this is Nick, by the way. Shout out to Nick. I don't know if hopefully he's still in here. What's the best barbecue you've ever had? So you've gone to many more areas of the country than I have, I feel like. So I'm not going to be great in terms of answering this question. However, the first place that came to mind when I saw this question was Dreamland Barbecue in Alabama that we went to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what I got from there. I know it was pulled chicken. And it had their signature barbecue sauce on it. Obviously, had to get the homemade mac and cheese. They also had homemade chips there, which wasn't all that impressed with that. And why is it a thing to do like what was that sauce that they put with the bread on the table?
Wasn't that like some sort of like barbecue sauce?
I didn't try it.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was just like barbecue sauce. It was like a sweet barbecue sauce.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm gonna go Dreamland Barbecue in Alabama, but I fully acknowledge that I'm not the best person to ask this question.
So mine
barbecue. Yes.
What did you? Who said that?
Nick's in the comments watching right now, and he said, well, first he said obviously that one from Minnesota yesterday. Did you see that on Twitter? That was getting absolutely roasted.
No.
Let me see if I can I might share my screen if I can pull this up. Oh wait, before I do that, by the way, I wanted to say, because I was wondering why I had this pulled up. Shout out to our favorite all-female podcast and one of our favorite podcasts in general, the Yinzers. They will be involved in that celebrity softball game, the Three Rivers Celebrity Softball game, supporting the Hayward House on Saturday, July 17th at Wild Things Park, home of the Washington Wild Things. Morgan is actually going to be playing in the game, but Sam and Jordan will be there as well, just providing coverage for it. So I pulled that up on Twitter. That was the first thing I saw, and I wanted to mention that. What was I looking for? Oh, that barbecue.
Yeah.
This was tough. I know Nick. I'm going to do Nick's Twitter page because I know that he. Yeah, here it is. All right. You are in for a treat, pal.
What? It just looks terrible.
So that's it.
Excited for this. Lindsay's barbecue in Jordan has a nice feel to it. Can't wait to taste it. I'm assuming those are ribs.
I don't know what they are.
I think they look like ribs. Look dry AF.
Mm-hmm.
And is that mac and cheese?
I want to say yeah. So it's shredded cheese on top for sure.
Yeah, well that's beet.
Yeah.
And that meat looks terrible.
This is a great time to just be joining the show as well. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here, but listen, it's Minnesota. Like, what are we expecting from Minnesota barbecue?
I don't know.
My guy, I don't know if you know who Brett Coleman is. He has a YouTube channel. He's one of my favorite people in terms of just talking football. He's the first comment that pops up on it. He says, all in favor of selling Minnesota off to the Canadians, say A.
Dude, that looks awful. I don't even get it off the screen. I don't really want to look at it anymore. Thank you. That made me lose my appetite a little bit.
Y'all got to come to Georgia.
I'm down to go to Georgia.
Hey, as long as it's not Minnesota, I'm in.
So I immediately thought of Dreamland Barbecue as well.
Yeah.
Also,
but you had something different.
It was a top. It was the topping of the cake for Dreamland Barbecue was the waitress calling me honey every single time she talked to me. She was like a woman in her 60s.
Yeah.
But
that sweet tea was phenomenal too, and you have to get it. Did you drink it? Because I feel like they would have been offended if you weren't.
I didn't.
Yikes.
Because I'm on my water binge.
Yeah, I know. All right, but go ahead.
So I would say the best barbecue I've had is probably this place, and I'm trying to think of what it was called. It was in Kansas City. I was at my uncle's place. And
Kansas City, definitely. I've heard you could go into gas stations there and get the best barbecue you've ever had. Yeah, so we went to a place, and I feel bad because it was literally the best wing, or not the best wings, the best ribs that I have ever had. And they were voted the best ribs in the United States. So naturally I had to get them. Yeah. And I feel terrible because I cannot give you the name. Yeah, you can't shout them out.
I can't think of the name, but they were voted the best ribs in the United States.
Well, can't you search best ribs in the United States? And
well, yeah, I'm looking. I was like best ribs in the United States, best ribs Kansas City, and none of them sound like the right place.
Oh,
but I don't know. It might have been Joe's Barbecue or Porky's. I don't know. But it was in Kansas City. That's all I know. Also, there used to be. I don't know if you ever ate this place. I don't even know what that name was either. I'm terrible with the names of these places. But there was a place in Aliquippa that had really good barbecue food, but it's shut down now. It's been shut down for 5 years or something like that. It was just a small place on the main street of Aliquippa.
I don't know.
But I had really good food from there as well. But if you want a name, then I know the name of Dreamland Barbecue.
Yeah.
So shout out to Travis Swaggerty for telling us to go there.
Facts. Also shout out to Travis because we hope that his rehab's going well and he's going to be ready to roll next season.
Hey, Mitch.
Yeah, Stone wants us to go to Georgia. Nick wants us to go to Charleston. We just need to do a food tour, I guess. but we're gonna need some sponsors to make that happen because we can't afford to do that. So, all right, moving on. Donnie, this might be my favorite question that we were asked. If you could go back in time to your very first show, what would you tell yourselves?
Don't yell, "Yeah, we live" to start the show.
Okay, that can apply as well, but that's not what I thought of. The first few things that I thought of was we all need to have our own mics, not just one centralized mic like we had for the first I don't know how long. And two, I can't imagine where we could have been earlier on if I would have had the knowledge that I do now about, how to get in contact with people.
Yeah,
And
right,
reach out to,
right.
reach out to players, their agents, and make the connections that we have in the last, like year one, it obviously wasn't like a waste. Like it gave us a nice foundation to build off of and everything like that. But it was really year two where we started to pick up momentum and really create something of this. And if we were able to do that in year one as well, like who knows what could have happened. Because at that point, like I said, like I touched on, shout out to Joe and Zach, the realtors that interviewed us. Like I touched on there, like there's been a huge movement now in terms of like just a wave of Pittsburgh content creation. It's probably like at an all-time high. At that time, that wasn't the case. Like we knew of a few people doing podcasts, but it was still like very new to us. And in like the Pittsburgh community, it wasn't something that was just like booming like it is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you look on Twitter, I feel like there's a new one all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I like we'll get a follow and I'll be like, oh, this person has a podcast or this is the podcast page themselves.
Yeah.
Like,
but
it's cool.
I would say, obviously, for those of you who have ever listened to our first show, I don't recommend you do it, but I did say, yeah, we live. So don't say that. But also, I would say to ourselves, just stick with it because I feel like there were probably a couple times where like all of us kind of felt like we might not want to do this anymore. And obviously we did. So I would just like assure ourselves like, hey, you're going to talk to Minka Fitzpatrick in a couple years. So you might want to stick with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because that you mentioned like getting in touch with athletes. Even like we had athletes from like mid 2018 up until I mean we do now, but I'm saying like up until Joey Molinaro, all of our athletes or like interviews came from DMs. We never like emailed people or found out agents or anything like that. So literally not until last year when we were almost 3 years in did we figure out we can like contact people besides DMing them.
Yeah. And also our very first like legit interview, Shane Boz, who was part of the Chris Archer deal going to Tampa Bay, he just got promoted to AAA. So he's knocking on the door now of the majors. His biggest thing had always been his control. I think he has like 45 strikeouts to 2 walks.
Oh wow.
AA or something this year. So like, yeah, he's killing it. So shout out to him, man. He gave us that launching pad that we needed, if you will.
I remember being so nervous for that first interview that we had because it's like, and it's crazy too because like we were we were 23 or you were about to turn 23. I was 23 at the time. Herb was like 20, 21 or 20, and like we're talking to a kid that's like 18 years old. And we're like nervous to I don't know if you were, but I know like I was like nervous to like talk to him. But it's crazy now because now we're with talking to athletes like Minka, Brian Rust. I mean, our childhood like hero pirate Jack Wilson, and it's just crazy to see like how far we've come with the interviews. It's awesome, and it's like I don't really get nervous anymore to talk to people. Honestly, the one that I was most nervous for, and I think I told him when we interviewed him was Jack Wilson, because he was different than any other player that we've interviewed. Because like the other ones have been current or like more recently current, but like Jack Wilson was like I like he made his debut when I was like 6 years old. I watched him growing up, so like that was like a different type of interview for me.
Yeah, he was the reason to go to Pirate games when they were absolutely terrible, and there was no other reason to go. Ricky said this is the best place for Pittsburgh sports content, way better than the Fan or anything else. The way you guys treat every person and break down topics is what drew me to you guys. Keep it up. Well, we obviously appreciate that, Ricky. You've been one of the OG fans of this show. Since you found us, you've been one of our biggest supporters. I think that the biggest thing for us is just like we are literally just fans of the team doing this, and it's so easy for anybody to relate to that because even if you're not a Pittsburgh sports fan, you're fans of something. And just think about like you can put yourself in our position and think about, oh, like this person's talking to their heroes, their sports heroes, the people that they grew up watching and stuff. And you can put yourself into a position and just relate to it that way. And that's the biggest thing for us is just trying to make you guys realize that you're as big of a part of this as like the two of us, and that literally anybody could be in this position, and it just happens to be the two of us.
Yeah, and I think it also shows that, I mean, we're just, like you said, we're just a couple fans that have microphones and a computer. So if anybody's like literally ever thinking of, hey, maybe I want to start a podcast or maybe I want to start writing or anything like that, just do it. I mean, we literally started this not knowing if anybody was going to listen. We didn't expect anybody to listen. We just did it because we wanted to. Mm-hmm. And now look at where we are just because of what we put into it. I mean, so even if you just do it for fun, do it. Go out and do it. You never know what it's going to turn into.
That's probably a good piece of advice. Even going back to Donnie's question to wrap that up before we move on. If you go back in time to your very first show, what would you tell yourselves? Just do it.
Yeah. And I feel like I got to give a shout out to them just because we're talking about our past selves. Shout out to North Shore 9 again. We shouted them out on the other guy's show, yeah, but those guys really laid the foundation for us and showed us the ropes of what we were doing because we literally had no clue.
I remember like right before we recorded our first show, they had the live podcast that we went to, and it was just cool to see how, they did everything. And I don't know without them that we do make this happen, because I think that everybody looks at it and it is pretty simple once you get the hang of doing everything, how a podcast goes, but without their guidance at the beginning, I don't know that we would have actually got off the ground, or definitely not have gotten to the level that we're at now. And there's so many people that have played into that, but really, yeah, Anthony DiNardo and Ryan Alexander were really the two that I think, again, I use the word launching pad for Shane, when he gave us that as far as having future, guests on and being able to bring guys on for interviews. They provided that, though, just for the podcast in general to get us off the ground.
Yeah.
Tyler wants to know, we're getting sad again. The Pirates rebuild is a failure if they're not competitive by. So I was just talking about this the other day with somebody on Twitter. I think if they don't look like the 2011, 2012 Pirates next year, like they at least look competitive, and then you have like the September call-ups that you hope are part of the future coming into play at some point, like then I'm going to be worried. I think 2023, they have to be like a good baseball team.
Mm-hmm. So, I was going to say 2023 was my year for like even if you don't make the playoffs, you have to miss by just maybe a couple games. And then 2024, if you're stretching it out to there, that's whenever you're in your window or your projected window and you have to be in the postseason. So if you're not in the postseason by 2024, that's an issue.
People are talking like 2025. If they're not competitive until 2025, you might as well trade Reynolds and Hayes right now. Like, if they need to be good before that, like, I don't think people realize what the timeline is for this team, because everybody thinks like whoever they draft with this first overall pick in this draft coming up needs to be part of this, like when they're really good. They don't need to be part of that right away. Like, there's enough talent in the minors right now for them to be good in 2023, 2024, 2025. And hopefully, like in those latter years, whoever they take with this first overall pick is just extending that window. They don't need that player right away to be good on these teams that are going to be the next, window of contention for this team.
Brian Reynolds will be 30 in 2025.
Yeah.
So,
and is that the year that he would be a free agent? I believe. I think that's his last year in a contract. Yeah. If it's not, yeah. So he's not. If they're not good, he's not going to be a Pirate. Like,
same thing with Brian. I mean, he still has 5 years of control after this, but still,
I think for bad teams, you start to look at when a guy has like 2 years left and sometimes even 3. So, in Reynolds' case right now, he's not even like arbitration eligible until after next year. and we're talking about him potentially being somebody that could get traded. We're not. When I say we're, like, The Athletic literally put it out. So, like, credible sites are throwing his name out there as a potential trade chip right now. If the Pirates still aren't good in another year or two, he's going to be traded. Mm-hmm. So if you want Brian Reynolds to be part of this window of contention, that window of contention needs to start. Like I said, they need to be competitive next year. Look like the 2011-2012 Pirates, which we know how those years went, but they were at least a good team at the beginning of the season, and then obviously showed that they weren't good enough in that second half in both those years. But then, like, 2013, 2000, and 2023 needs to look like 2013, in my opinion.
I would agree with that. Like my minimum is 2024. If you're not in the postseason by 24, then you just screwed something up.
And I've said this before, I'm not so sure that Derek Shelton's the manager when this team's good.
No. And listen, the reason that he is still the manager and then the mistakes aren't as costly towards his job right now is because the team isn't supposed to be good. So it's not going to be highlighted as much. But if you're at a place in time where the team is supposed to be good and these mistakes are still happening, then you're going to have to look for a new manager.
Yeah, he's in a position right now where just expectations are so low that his mistakes aren't necessarily highlighted. But we are able to go back and see, obviously the talent's not there for them to be a good team, but just some of the decisions that he makes, like, okay, Clay Holmes has been good this year. He hadn't given up a run since April going into Friday's game, and he obviously had that poor outing. But then that happens. So why do you go right back to him again on Saturday? I mean, like, something like that. That's where I think that you can question him. Way too short of a leash on guys that you're trying to find out, can this guy be a part of the future to some extent? Like Will Crowe throwing a great game on Sunday. You pull him after 5 innings. Why?
Yeah. But then on the flip side of it, like the fielding errors, I can't put that on Shelton.
No.
That's just the players sucking.
I think that, people seem to have a hard time deciphering where blame should go in these situations. People always want to put it like all on the players, or people always want to throw it all on the managers. And I think that that's been that way forever, but definitely like in the Clint Hurdle era, man,
right.
Like, because I think that it was definitely time to move on as well. But at the same time, like, I'll never, try to belittle what Clint Hurdle was able to do with his Pirates team. Because it's not like they were the most talented teams, even when they had that window of contention 2013 to 15.
Dude, look at 2018. He still had a winning team somehow.
Yeah. Drew wants to know who is Smitty drafting at 8 and 13 in our Dynasty League draft, which actually starts tonight. So I'm not going to tell Drew. He actually picks right in front of me at 7. So I'll be picking right ahead of him when it snakes back down. So I cannot tell him my philosophy for this. Someone responded to that and said Javonte and Tony. I think that they might have thought we were just doing rookies and already had our Dynasty League teams in place, but it's the first year that we're doing this. So Matt says, not coming to Pittsburgh, sadly. Where do you guys think Aaron Rodgers will end up? Man.
Are we certain he's out of Green Bay?
That's the thing is, like, I still, like, it's hard for me to say, like, if there's a favorite of what's going to happen, I would still go with him staying in Green Bay. But Aaron's definitely, like, I don't know him personally, but he just seems like the type of guy that isn't going to budge on this.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's not like the team doesn't want him out. It's just he wants out. Right.
No. And how many guys have a fallback option of being able to get, a multi-million-dollar deal to go be the host of Jeopardy? I mean, this guy doesn't need football at this point. He's not like somebody in the prime of his career with, all these years left that the team needs to beg to come back.
I mean, I feel like Denver's the easy answer.
If it's going to be somewhere else, I would say so as well.
But is Houston a possibility?
See, the thing is, they are not even close to competing even if you add the quarterback.
Yeah.
So obviously in this scenario, we're assuming that a Deshaun Watson situation plays out a certain way and he's no longer able to play in Houston. And then they'd be looking for a quarterback. They did spend their first draft pick of this season on Davis Mills. That was their first draft pick this past year. who's a quarterback out of Stanford, who probably should have went back to school. I think that there's something there with him, but he definitely was not pro ready. But you look at that roster, I think that they're going to be in contention, especially how the Watson situation could play out. I think they're going to be in contention for the first overall pick next year. I think that they're the worst team in the AFC. And that could be the case even with Watson. Like, he lost Will Fuller. He goes to Miami. There's nothing there for him really to even work with. They have like 4 running backs, but who cares?
Running backs that aren't even notable, though.
I'm saying, yeah, it's just a bunch of like past their prime or decent or average running backs. I would say it's Green Bay or it's Denver. I would be absolutely shocked if it's anywhere else.
I'm still with Green Bay. I in my head,
Ricky said, imagine like New Orleans if they weren't in salary cap hell. I mean, he's obviously an upgrade on Jameis or Taysom, but
yeah,
they can't. They obviously can't do that. They're going to be selling off very valuable assets, probably.
I would have said the Patriots if they didn't draft Mac Jones.
Yeah. See, the thing is, these teams, and even going back to like what I'm saying for any team, really, teams could pivot from what their current plan is for a guy like Aaron Rodgers to make it work. Like, it's like, even you look at
MVP
San Fran,
caliber player.
Yeah, you look at San Fran, and they wouldn't have the draft capital now after giving up what they did to get Lance. But just the idea of drafting Lance, I don't know that makes you not trade for Aaron Rodgers, because everything else on that team is they were just in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they just had a bunch of injuries last year.
Yeah, and especially since Lance, you're not projecting to be your starter for a couple years. To bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers to try to be competitive right now, I feel like that would be a slam dunk.
But they don't have the picks to do it because of what they to get Lance. But yeah, I don't.
But the decision making makes sense. Like, if you had if they had the capability, it would make sense.
I know people have said Vegas.
If you're Jacksonville, would you do it?
They're probably there's like, I think, somewhere between 5 to 7 teams that don't have any reason to do so, and I would say that they're one of them.
Okay, I'm just curious what you say. What about Miami?
I mean, he's still Miami. Yeah, I'm not sold on Tua, to be honest with you. I think that like people are going to debate, obviously, even Burrow versus Herbert, but like Miami with taking Tua over Herbert, in hindsight, it's 2020, but that's going to be a tough pill to swallow if Herbert continues to do what he's doing and Tua continues to look like he has. It's a small sample size, though, so the book's not written there. There's so many questions about it's his health for me more than anything, to be honest with you. I think that's completely screwed up his mechanics to the point where that's the reason that he's had this poor stretch of football going back to last season and now the poor start that he's had in camp.
Yep. Poor Tua.
Now, this is a fun question. What do you think of the Euros? Who has impressed you so far? If, of course, you are following. How much have you actually been able to watch of the Euros?
Not a ton, because I work all day.
Yeah. Luckily, I worked at a computer. I literally I've been watching it. I've been watching it.
I didn't mean to say that as if you don't work. But
no. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I meant to say, like, I can't see, like, I can't watch it during the day.
Yeah.
I mean, impressing me, Italy being 2-0. I mean, I know that they're with Wales, Switzerland, and Turkey, but I'll be honest, impressing me, Italy. Not impressing me, or very disappointing, Turkey. I thought they were going to be a lot better than what they were. I mean, I feel like a lot of people online were like hyping up Turkey going into this Euros, and they're 0-2 at this point.
France is the team that I picked to win. They've only played the one game against Germany. They are 1-0, only scored one goal. It was an own goal scored by Germany themselves. But I think that's the most complete roster. They're my pick to win it, mainly because my boy Mbappe. I think Belgium's really good as well. In Portugal, they're Portugal. Cristiano Ronaldo, 2 goals.
Imagine being Hungary, and you're in Group F with Germany, France, and Portugal.
Yeah, that's insane. That's a death sentence. They pretty much just said, "Here, we're giving you no chance of coming out of this group."
Honestly, yeah.
I don't know who else, man. I mean, and that's the thing is, like, I took this as teams that we're talking about, If we're talking about like individual players, I think that's a different question.
Listen, England, I love England's squad. I don't like England's manager. So I think the individual talent on England is just as good, if not better, than the majority of the teams. Like it might not stack up with like France, for example.
I was gonna say, do you think they're better than France?
No, although up front, yes, I would say like their strikers, their forwards are better than France. Like overall, obviously you have Mbappe, but I would take England's depth at striker and midfield overall. But I just don't think that they have the right management for that team. But yeah, besides that, I mean, there's nothing really out of the ordinary. Belgium's good. My boy Lukaku, former Chelsea player.
Yeah.
But yeah, excited for the rest of the Euros.
And Belgium plays tomorrow at noon, Denmark. So see them again. But anyway, moving on. When are we getting a Steelers Twitter bar crawl going for a preseason or away game? Now, this is funny because I don't know if anybody saw on Twitter, myself, Eddie P from the 412 Sports Talk, and Mel, who you guys see me tag her and stuff all the time because of the batter that she has going on, the cookie dough. Unbelievable looking. I need to try it. Send it my way, please. We're talking about Eddie's family actually owns a bar. And he was talking about trying to put together an event for the Steelers-Lions preseason game on August 21st. That's a Saturday. So there will be more information regarding that if it definitely comes to fruition. I don't see a reason that it wouldn't. Like I said, it's literally his family's bar. So he can kind of just do whatever he wants. I think it's his grandparents that own it.
Got it.
And so there's not too much on that. It's in the very early stages, but we are talking about putting something together. What was I looking for here? I wanted to see. I can't remember the name of it. That's what I was looking for. But I know he DM'd me. I'll find it. I'll put it out. But anyway, this question came to us, and of course I just backed out of it. From those guys who write about a lot of pit stuff and such. So, yeah, definitely I will give you that information as it comes to fruition. But hopefully we get another Pittsburgh Clothing Company bar crawl in the near future as well, because that was very fun. I know you weren't there for the first one, but
I was not. No, I don't even know what I was doing.
I don't remember. I know that you definitely had something. I know you had something going on until late, and like we were still out, but it wouldn't have made sense for you to like drive up there just for the hour that we were still going to be out for or something.
Yeah, I really have no clue.
Yeah. Our friend Craig wants to know who could put down more chicken wings, Smitty or Tyler. I concede on this one. I'm not even going to try to pretend that it's me. I feel like this is one of those TikToks where you point to the person that it relates to.
Yeah,
listen, and I can eat a good amount of chicken wings, but this is more a testament to you.
Yeah, I figured that you would say this, just because I know you and I have ate together multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I can eat a lot of food, so I'm based, especially if it's like all you can eat wings. If I prepare myself like the day before, I'm like a bottomless pit, kind of. So yeah, it's definitely me. I feel like I don't even know if it'd be close because.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about preparation. I probably really wouldn't change anything that I'm doing to try to.
Oh no! Like so for example, when I would go to Quaker Steak and Lube for their all you can eat wing night,
mm-hmm.
I prepared myself. So the night before, I had a pretty big dinner, and then I would go to the bathroom in the morning, and I would have a. Like not really like I would have something for breakfast just to open up my stomach a little bit. I wouldn't really eat lunch, and I would just drink a ton of water throughout the day to keep my stomach expanded. That way by dinner time I have the hunger there and my stomach is expanded already, but it's not being taken up by food. So there's just a lot of space for wings.
By the way, I have this dynasty draft that just started at 7 p.m. The first two picks were Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Now, I mentioned to you this is a super flex league, so you can play a quarterback. You play two quarterbacks. So I kind of get it. But like I said, I think my strategy is just going to be not necessarily drafting my first quarterback any sooner, but I'll draft my second quarterback before I typically would.
I'll say I don't really know the difference between like dynasty leagues and like just normal fantasy football leagues or whatever. But I know, and playing two quarterbacks could be different as well. But I know personally, like whenever I'm personally drafting for fantasy, I don't pick a quarterback until probably like at the earliest round 4 or 5.
I got Aaron Rodgers in round 9 last year.
Yeah, like my quarterback last year for our fantasy league was Josh Allen, and I think I got him around 5 or 6.
He just went second overall. So,
yeah, that's crazy.
Give us a number for each. Craig's in here right now watching, by the way. So
nice. I mean, well, Craig, you've been with me whenever I've eaten 40 because you were trying to keep my pace. That was like the whole motive for Craig when we went to this particular wing night. Is that he wanted to keep pace with me, and we both reached 40. And then I remember specifically going back to Quentin's house after we went to the wing night, and Craig was FaceTiming his girlfriend at the time, but wife now, Brienne, and he was basically dead on the floor. And it was not like it was just like mumbling his words, and it was just really funny because I was like fine. Yeah. I think that's the big difference. Is like people can eat a lot. How are you after? If you're like lifeless after, that's a big difference. I felt pretty much okay. You beat me too. Okay, let's do it again.
He did say Tyler can put down at least 40 as the first comment that he said.
That's because like the one time we did it, I had 40.
For me, I'm thinking. So typically, like I get wings, I'm getting like 12, right? So,
right.
But if I'm doing like an all you can eat, I'm thinking it's gonna be somewhere between like 25 to 30, and that's it.
I'm thinking if I like prepare myself, and like really try, I'm between 50 and 60.
My friend Boots, this isn't like an exaggeration. I was literally with him at Quaker Steak wing night, 82.
I had that beat. So this was fall of 2011 or 12. It was during football camp where we have 3-a-days, and it was towards the end of 3-a-days, and myself, Quentin, and his brother and his sister, and a little group of us, we went to Quaker Steak during my football camp. And for those of you who have ever went through a football camp, you realize like you could pretty much eat whatever you want, and it doesn't matter, and you're just going to sweat it out the next day. And you're just like a carnivore at that point. Well, I ate 96 wings at Quaker Steak that night. And the only reason I was trying to get 100, and I didn't reach 100 was because if I put a piece of chicken on my tongue, I was going to throw up at that point. So I was 4 away. It's probably one of the most disappointing moments of my entire life, but 96 is still a big accomplishment. I'll hang my hat on that.
I think that like, so what flavor are you eating though? Are you stick to one flavor?
Arizona Ranch.
Okay.
If I'm enjoying wings, I will get multiple flavors. If I am trying to eat as many as possible, I stick to one flavor because when you start mixing flavors, your stomach does not settle as easily when you're trying to eat all those wings. So sticking to one flavor is really the key to getting the amount of wings. But my go-to whenever we would go to Quaker Steak is Arizona Ranch, which happens to be my favorite wing sauce of anywhere.
Okay. Moving on to another question here. Joe Pager that I mentioned is one of the realtors that interviewed us along with Zach. Said Dwayne Haskins or Mason Rudolph, who will take over when Big Ben retires. I think Rudolph is a career backup. Haskins may or may not be a legit starter with a decent team around him. Obviously didn't have that in Washington.
So we kind of touched on this on our show last week a little bit when we talked about the Steelers, and my answer is still going to be the same. I think the immediate starting quarterback after the Ben era will be Mason Rudolph. Just because I don't think he's the same quarterback that is advertised from the 2019 season. I think he will be improved. And we got to see how he would be in Matt Canada's offense. And apparently he's he's having certain plays for the offense for each individual quarterback as well.
Yeah.
And he actually has a quarterback coach in Mike Sullivan. So we don't know what version of Mason Rudolph we have right now. It's definitely not the 2019 version. He looked decent last year when he came in against Cleveland. So I'm just going based off experience, and I think the help that he's going to get with these certain coaches, and I think Ben is trying to coach him and both Dwayne up as well. Since it's towards the end, I'm going to say Mason Rudolph will be the next quarterback, but I do not think he's the franchise quarterback. I don't think Dwayne Haskins is the franchise quarterback either. I think either one of those guys, unless they took a massive stride, would be stopgap quarterbacks while the Steelers are finding their new franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I guess I'll just echo what you said because it's exactly what I was going to say. I didn't know whether to answer this as just like which one will be the short-term guy, because like you, I don't see either one as the long-term fixture at the position. Obviously, I would love to be proven wrong there, to have a cheap option at quarterback for a little bit. Mason just making $5 million next year. If he ends up being a decent starting quarterback, this would be the best bargain in football. So, I don't.
He's also the only one that's under contract.
Yeah, he's also the only one under contract right now. So I think, like you, that it is Mason that gets the first shot in the post-Ben era. But also, like you, I don't think that it stays that way for very long. And it's nothing against him, but you look at all these other quarterbacks around the league, he just doesn't have the traits that these other guys do that are coming into the league. So like he might be fine. He might be a serviceable guy. Maybe he's efficient and gets the ball out to the playmakers, but eventually you're going to want more from that position. He's not going to be a guy that, takes you to a Super Bowl, I don't think.
Especially if Matt Canada is your long-term solution at offensive coordinator. Listen, yeah. I know that I'm sure that Matt Canada can form an offense around a non-mobile quarterback, but we know his offense is at its best when he has a guy that can move around. So I think if that's your long-term option, then your long-term option for quarterback needs to be a mobile option as well.
Okay, moving on here. Best television series of all time, cable, streaming, all shows.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I mean, that's so funny. I've never even really watched it. I couldn't. I don't know what it was. I couldn't get into the show. For me, I always say Sons of Anarchy for this. It's the one show that I wish that I could forget and rewatch. I mean, I rewatch The Office all the time. I rewatch Parks and Rec all the time, but those are different. And also with The Office, as much as I love it, it wasn't consistently good. The first season sucked, and it also wasn't very good once Michael left in the last few seasons. For me, Sons of Anarchy, consistent, start to finish, was my favorite series of all time. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best, because that could be a different conversation. My favorite series of all time is Sons of Anarchy. As far as best, it probably shows that I was never really into. I mean, obviously Friends is up there, right? Seinfeld's probably up there. Cheers. I'm just throwing out the
I don't hate Friends. Listen, I don't know if this is the right take for this. I cannot consider a sitcom the best TV show of all time. I don't know if it's just because like I just don't think that genre can be considered the best TV show of all time.
Is it because you feel like the best TV show of all time would have to kind of play into every single emotion? So if it's just funny, that's not really doing so?
Kinda. I also think the writing's different for it. And just
well, okay.
The shows in general, too. like I consider let me say for like Breaking Bad is what I consider like the best show. It's also probably like my favorite show in terms of just like I think it's perfect basically from start to finish. And like you with Sons of Anarchy, I wish I could forget everything and rewatch Breaking Bad again for the first time. But I'm not really like that with any sitcom. Like I love The Office. I mean, don't get me wrong. Friends and Seinfeld, like they're fine. Like it's fine. But I love Parks and Rec. I love New Girl. But like none of those shows really bring that emotion for me where it's like, man, I love this show. I really wish I could like erase my memory of it and like watch it again for the first time. I think I love the rewatchability of those shows, but I don't love them because I think they're the best shows. If that makes sense.
Here's another thing: is you can literally, without watching, any of those, somebody that's never seen the series could just watch an episode of The Office. Like you can't just pick up, Sons of Anarchy in season 3 and watch a random episode and fully understand what's going on. Like there's not a continuous, there's not a continuous plot in a lot of these sitcoms from start to finish. It's just episode to episode. There's a plot for that specific episode.
Yeah,
it's not the long-term picture.
Each sitcom does have a long-term picture if you watch the entire thing, but it's not essential to know that long-term picture just to watch one episode. Like it'll still be funny to you if you just pick a random episode.
Yeah.
I just think you have to take like the writing into it and cinematography and all sorts of stuff when it comes to what you're considering the best show. And I personally cannot put a sitcom in a best show category.
This one we had trouble understanding. I had to do some doodling here to even find out what was being talked about. Billy said, "What are your thoughts on the Batman controversy?" So you actually at least knew what maybe was being talked about. Yeah. There's this controversy with Batman on you said Harley Quinn.
It was a Harley Quinn animated show. Yeah. And it was they were taking out a sensual scene with Batman and Catwoman. And listen, my opinion on it is that I really don't have an opinion on it. I don't care. That's my opinion.
What's this? What's this air on? Like, what's the?
Honestly, I have no clue. I just know the show. I mean, I know like there's been another like cartoon that's had like Batman and Catwoman, like they kissed and then she took her shirt off, but then it like cut the scene. But like, I don't know what exactly they were wanting to put into the show, but at the same time,
I know. I'm looking at it right now. In the
what
article. I'm looking at.
You're looking at the article. Yeah. I thought you meant like you were looking at like the scene.
Oh,
like,
the deleted scene. No.
Well, the way you said it, you're like, oh yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. But
it is pretty wild that they would even have the idea of doing this. But
yeah, listen, I don't care. I just feel like, what's the necessity of that? If you want to put it in, like whatever, but like that's not a need in that show, so it's not a big deal to me.
I don't really know how to weigh in on this, other than for me, I guess it would just depend on what channel or whatever this is airing on, because probably kids probably shouldn't see it, like if it's animated and stuff. But I'm assuming, based off the fact they would ever have that in there, that it's not for kids. So
I don't know. The one with Catwoman taking her shirt off was on Cartoon Network.
Interesting. Okay. So this, I know that you were struggling with this one. Aiden wants to know, what is the one restaurant, even if you are starving, you wouldn't eat at?
Here's the thing. I'm not like people that are like, I hate Arby's. I'm never going to eat at Arby's. And believe me, what I'm about to say is blasphemous, but I hate Taco Bell. I'm never going to eat a Taco Bell. Like I literally cannot think of a restaurant that I would not eat at because I don't like their food. I have no idea. But so I'm going to say a specific restaurant. I'm going to say the Dairy Queen in Rochester.
Okay.
And the only reason is because it looks crusty to me. And maybe they've renovated it since, but I just have an image in my head and it just looks like an old crusty Dairy Queen. But at the same time, Dairy Queen has decent food. So like I the only reason I'm saying that is because of the location. I cannot think of an actual restaurant that I would say, no, I don't want to eat their food.
For me, anywhere that's strictly vegan options, probably not going to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Nope. Forget my answer. Anything that is straight vegan, they can just be shipped to the bottom of the ocean.
Cody Coleman said they literally just renovated it. So if he's talking about the Rochester Dairy Queen, my dad actually helped them do some stuff.
Oh, really? So, well, I mean, then I'm sure it's fine now. Literally, Dairy Queen has decent food. So I don't know. But yeah, I'm going with your answer now. Anything vegan that's strictly only vegan, Ship it to the moon for all I care. Ship all the vegans to the moon. Who cares?
Yeah.
Sorry if you're listening, you're vegan. I just can't get with your methods.
No problem. I have no problem with people that are vegan. However, I'm not going to go to a place where I can't have the food that I want and it's only catered to you. That's where I'm at.
I wonder if that's how like vegan people feel when they go to like a meat place.
Sheesh. Just said sheesh. Yeah, I think shipping all the vegans to the moon was maybe a little bit harsh.
I mean, listen, Elon's going to populate the moon soon. They can just live up there. It's fine.
What's the first thing you'll do, place to go when Heinz Field opens up this season? So this is another one. Wasn't sure exactly how to answer because, like, I don't know exactly what this means. Like inside Heinz Field, when we're inside Heinz Field, or like once Steelers season kicks off, and fans are back there like tailgating. I guess I'll just say I'm really hoping that Bettis's place opens back up because they've literally been closed the entire pandemic. Obviously, those people couldn't wait on employment. Like they would have had to have gone and find another job during that time. So hopefully that, they're able to find a completely new staff and able to open back up because that place is awesome.
I'm going to go to whichever food stand Jamal's mom is at because she works at Heinz Field and I like to see her anytime I go there. And what does she call me? She calls me something. I don't know if she called me honey or something, but she also no, she didn't call me baby. But the one time she was like, "How you doing?" And she slapped my chest. I swear, that was like the hardest I've ever been hit. But it was hilarious. But I love Jamal's mom, so that's where I'm going, is wherever she's working because she likes to give me free food.
Also, the only potato patch that's in Heinz Field is literally right behind my section. So, if anybody wants potato patch in there at Heinz Field, you have to come my way. Section 105 to be exact.
You should probably charge more for your tickets for that.
I know. I mean, it's right there. Do you think Tomlin will ever go to a two-back system? I think it provides fresh legs if they go every other offensive round. I'm assuming that means series.
So
not after you use a first-round pick on a running back.
Well, that too, but I will say not with the current room that they have of running backs. If Najee's your one, who's your two? I mean, there's no guy that I feel like is going to. That
might have been a good question to throw into my Three Rivers rapid responses for you. Who is RB2? Because I think it's Anthony McFarland that ends up being.
I think it's Anthony I think it could be Anthony McFarland too, just because Matt Canada is running the offense, and I know his style.
I'll tell you what, though, we are here, and again, it's meaningless until it translates to a game. We are hearing some really good things about Kalen Ballage, which could be scary for the name that Cody just mentioned in the comments.
Benny Snell, baby. No, sorry, Cody. No Benny Snell. I like the guy.
I mean, listen, I'm going to be so mad if he vultures like 5 touchdowns away from Najee this year.
He's got cement feet.
I know.
Especially when you watch
situations and didn't succeed last year. I don't know that he would this year, but I'm just saying.
Especially when you watch the drills of the running back drills, like practice, watching Najee and then watching Benny Snell, it's like night and day. And I understand they're two different running backs, and one's a first round running back, but still. So the answer is no. They're not going to go to a 2 running back system because of the room that they have.
I think it'd be interesting if they used a little bit of like Ray McLeod in the backfield and had him and Najee in the backfield at the same time. You don't want to get carried away and do it too much, but just throw a few because it make it look weird. The defense will be so thrown off if you do that a couple times.
Put Najee and Josh Dobbs in the backfield.
That could work too. We only got a couple more here. Who's your sleeper prospect in the Pirates system? So I feel like he can't be considered anymore, even though he's currently still ranked as the Pirates' 19th prospect. Ronzi Contreras at Altoona is absolutely killing it. I don't think that he's flying under the radar anymore at this point. It's only a matter of time and he's still only 21 years old. He's going to be 21 for the rest of the season. So he's way ahead of schedule. I think we could see him jump up to AAA still at the age of 21, which would be great because, the whole thing in the Neil Huntington era was we don't fast track anybody. Guys spend way too much time in the minor league system. They get to the majors when they're like 25 years old. They hit free agency when they're past 30 and then, their prime of their careers are already gone. So it would be nice to see a guy like him come up sooner than, we have in the past. I'm going to go with the guy that we've actually had on the show. I'm going to go with Jared Jones. Only 19 years old, already hitting high 90s with his fastball. We know he's a good athlete because he played two ways in high school. Could really hit for a pitcher as well. But I think that you just look at that uptick in velocity, the fact that he's still only 19 years old. He's pitching at Bradenton right now. This is a kid, although he's not much of a talker. Sorry, Jared. I think he's going to be one heck of a pitcher. So I think, too, the great thing about him is the drop-off in pitch speed when he goes from his fastball to his changeup, because he can drop it down to like 85 miles per hour and then ramp it up to 98.
I'm glad that you're well prepared for this answer. Because
I was going through the questions and kind of forgot about this one until I scrolled to the bottom. So that's on me, because you literally asked me before this if there were ones you needed to know about and would have to prepare for.
Who's
your favorite episode of Back to the Bird? You know who I would have thought of too is Mason Martin, because he's kind of lower down there too, 14. But he's a guy.
I was going to say Mason Martin, and also I was going to say at 24, Kanan Smith. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name in case I say it wrong.
Yeah.
But him and Altoona, that outfield's been doing pretty decent.
I think with Mason Martin, the thing about him is anybody that watches the Pirates know that we're kind of lacking that true power bat in the middle of the lineup, and hopefully he's able to become that, be the guy that can change the game with one swing, which we really haven't had, since Pedro. Even the year that Josh Bell really tore it up, we only had that for half of a season. So Pedro was the last consistent guy that we had. Consistent, I say, but guy that we had that could change the game with one swing like that at any time. And Mason Martin looks like he could potentially be that next guy.
And we don't have any other first baseman in the system, really.
True. Yeah, we keep you look at the first baseman right now. We've had Colin Moran just converted from third base. We've had Rodriguez Gonzalez play first base a lot this year, which he has no business playing there. We've seen Ben Gamel play first base at times. Phillip Evans has been playing there. No true traditional first baseman has really played at first base this year for the Pirates.
Yeah, hopefully he pans out. Favorite episode of Back to the Berg is the one we're on, obviously.
That was still on his old YouTube account, I believe. That wasn't even on the Coleman Entertainment one.
Was that on his, or was that on?
I really enjoyed the one with Zach from Pittsburgh Clothing Company. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was on Jagoff, I believe.
Yeah. How does one grow a stash that nice? Well, people just get off Smitty's.
I don't know where this is coming from,
dude.
All this mustache love that I've been getting the past week. Years of practice.
Smitty's not that great, people.
Years of practice. All right, so actually, this is the final question. Best potential owner of the Pirates in the future. Easy answer is Mark Cuban.
Oh.
Us.
Yeah, Mark Cuban was the easy answer. Apparently, Lemieux tried in 2009.
That'd been interesting.
Listen, I don't know. I feel like people say best. Whenever the people say that, they're really asking who's going to spend the most money. But I think we talked about this a couple times on our show. Even with a different owner, the actual spending of the team probably wouldn't change all that much. Mm-hmm. So, it might be a little bit more, but you're not going to turn into the Dodgers just because you have a different owner.
Yeah, true.
So, I feel like that's what people are expecting. Who's the owner that's kind of come in and would, give us a $200 million payroll? No one, because that's not going to happen. You just can't, logistically work that way as the Pirates in the Pittsburgh market.
If you're asking that, you're asking which owner is the most okay with not turning a profit.
Maybe that is Mark Cuban. I don't know. Did you see Mark Cuban? Mark Cuban. I don't know if it's true, but I saw a post on Instagram saying that Mark Cuban said, if it was between getting a divorce and keeping Luka in Dallas, he would be at his lawyer's office with the divorce papers.
I love Cuban. He's great. What's the best post-game bar in Pittsburgh? So I've never been into that scene. Like
My
maybe this year,
basement, because I get to go home.
like maybe this year I'll try to do it more often because like that's definitely I've made a lot more connections. I know people have brought that up to me, like, hey, I can't wait to meet up before and after the game and hang out and stuff. However, if they lose, I'm not going to be interested in doing any of that. But if they win, I'm going to be down for whatever. Although even more so than a bar, I'm a big casino guy, so that might be the move for me personally.
Casino would
Cody
be more
Coleman says
fun.
Tequila Cowboy. Yeah, I mean, you might run into a former offensive coordinator there. Could run into some players. Who knows?
I think I would enjoy the casino more than any of the other, and especially if you're talking after a Steeler game, if it's like a 1:00 game, you can go there and watch like the 4 o'clock games in the
Yeah,
sports book and the 8 o'clock game.
and it's such a shame
So
that
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 might be
was
the
just
move.
like that sports book was so like relatively new, and then the pandemic hit, so they never even
Yeah.
got like full usage out of it before they had to. And now it's back open and everything like that, so that's good. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully this year that can become a thing. But yeah, as far as post game bars in Pittsburgh, Cody Coleman says to you, the Cowboy. Again, going back to just like the barbecue question, I know I'm not the best person to ask this because that's never really been my thing, but I'm definitely more of a casino than bar guy.
I'm more of a basement guy, but it is what it is.
I want to say that's it. I think we got everything that was asked of us.
All right, now it's our turn.
Yeah, so even though we answered a lot of questions already, we're still going to do Three Rivers Rapid Responses, brought to you by Viget, the newest app for betting and social media, brought to you in one place. So you can download the Viget app, use the word Crowworthy, CROWWORTHY, when you sign up. Reach out to us to let us know that you signed up, and we will get you in the Around the 412 group. Use coins to bet on these games. It ranks you in your leaderboard. Whether you win or lose, you'll see positive or minus coins at the end of the month. There's a winner, and you win coins for being the winner. You can use those coins on some prizes, such as Amazon gift cards, some merch from their site. I know there's autographed memorabilia on there from time to time. There's also a PlayStation 5 on there. So, yeah, the possibilities are endless on Viget. So download the app and let us know when you do. But anyways, Three Rivers Rapid Responses brought to you by Viget. I guess I'll start. So we kind of touched on this when we were on All Steelers Talk with Noah and Donnie. Shout out to those two guys. Do you think that the Steelers keep 4 quarterbacks on the roster this year for the first time in Tomlin's era?
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna say no. I think that they will keep 3, and then they're gonna hope that Josh Dobbs is not claimed and he's on the practice squad.
Makes sense. So you can become a season ticket holder for one of the 3 major sports teams in Pittsburgh. However, if you choose to do that, and this will be at no cost to you, you get them for free. However, if you choose to do that, you can't attend a game for the other 2 teams. Do you do it? And if so, which team are you picking?
Penguins.
Okay.
Was that too quick?
I mean, I thought like the ability to not go to Steeler Pirate games might.
Can I still watch them?
Yeah. Yeah, you just can't
Penguins.
never go to another game.
Yeah, Penguins.
Okay. What's one thing that you would say separates Pittsburgh from other places not sports related? What's like specific to Pittsburgh?
Scenery. Whenever you go to Mount Washington and you go up to the Fort Duquesne incline and you go to that overlook, you see downtown, you see the 3 rivers, and you see the point, you see all the bridges. I think Pittsburgh is the prettiest city in the United States, and I'll argue that with anybody. But I think the scenic view of specifically downtown, not that there's not scenic areas around the greater Pittsburgh area as well, but I think the downtown with the rivers is so unique, and you can see the stadiums on the North Shore, Oakland and Pitt in the back with the Cathedral of Learning. I just think that view on Mount Washington, and I also like the West End overlook view as well. That is what separates Pittsburgh to me versus other cities.
Not the fries on everything?
That too. I mean, we're unique for that too.
All right. Well, that's all I got. So.
All right. Cool. So my first one, who is your favorite athlete that has never played for a Pittsburgh team?
So the way that I would do this, I think, is just I really can't think about this too much. I think like it should just be the first name that pops to my mind, and for that reason, I'm going to say Ken Griffey Jr.
Okay.
He's like the first baseball player. If you said name a baseball player, first name off the top of my head would be Ken Griffey Jr.
Okay. Yeah.
Best.
That's a great name. Great name. Okay. I actually touched on this earlier in the show about my favorite, but what is your favorite wing sauce?
Oh. So the two that come to mind right away for me, just because like I have Quaker Steak on my mind now, is Tire Cracker from Quaker Steak. I'm a big fan of that. I'm also a big fan of Sweet Heat from Permane Brothers, very underrated wing sauce. I know everybody thinks about the sandwiches, and we don't bash them necessarily, Permane Brothers, but we think that there's better sandwich places, and they're just such like a cliche place for somebody to go just because they're in Pittsburgh. But the wings, kind of underrated. It'd probably be one of those two, but hey, shout out to local places because obviously I love Whiskey Rhythm. Shout out to them for getting second place and best in the Valley. But specifically, one wing flavor at Zookie's. Zookie's barbecue is unbelievable as well.
Also, if we're talking loco as well, Whiskey Rhythm special wings, I liked it a lot too.
I don't even know what's all in them, to be honest with you. And I used to have to make those.
Well, I just know I like them. All right. So what was did you pick one or did you just say multiple?
I'll go, if I had to just choose one, probably Tire Cracker.
Okay. Nice. That's a good one. All right. Last one. And this is kind of like a question I asked you last week, just a little different. So you have to keep one of these players.
Oh, God.
And the other two, their careers never existed for Pittsburgh. So basically just wipe the existence of what happened with those teams with that player.
Okay.
Ben Roethlisberger.
Jesus.
Andrew McCutchen. Sidney Crosby. You have to pick one. The other two are gone.
Well, I'm getting rid of Kutch. Sorry. That's the first one I'm getting rid of, and then the other two is going to be tough. But nothing against Kutch. Like I said, he represents everything that was good about the very short period of time that we had good baseball in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. He represented that rise up to relevancy. He's what made them relevant for a few years. So he's my favorite Pirate of all time, obviously, and it's still that easy of a decision to get rid of him right away just because never accomplished anything under him. Right. Oh, my goodness, man. I would say...
You might be offending certain fan bases who watch our show. You might be offending one of them depending on your answer.
This is the worst. I'm mad that I couldn't come up with this question first to deter you from asking it. People are going to hate me for this. I'm going to say Ben's the one I'm keeping. Even though I say Sid's my favorite athlete of all time. Here's the reason. Here's the reason.
Wow.
I don't think that like Sid is replaceable. I also don't think that Ben is replaceable. But without Sid, we still would have Gino. He could be the first number one center on the team. And maybe you can find somebody as a second center, a second superstar to get close to that. With Ben, there's no alternative. There's been no alternative for 17 years.
Wow.
And obviously, hopefully the team would have found somebody in that time. But if we're just completely getting rid of them, we don't know that. So at least with getting rid of Sid, I know that Gino's at least still there. And maybe we keep Stahl.
Maybe we do. I'll be honest. That is not the way that I thought you were going to go. When I thought you said people are going to hate me for this, I just thought you meant we have a large Steeler following and you were going to get rid of Ben.
I think a lot of Steeler fans would be okay with me getting rid of Ben, to be honest. The way that you see him talked about. Yeah. That's honest. That's probably the toughest question I've ever been asked in my life.
Listen, I knew that was going to be. I figured Kutch was being the first one out, just because he like never won a championship. I'm sure that would be different if he did win a championship. But
yeah, I mean, it would have been harder.
Yeah, but Yeah, I knew between Ben and Sid it would be tough, but for some reason I thought you would lean Sid, and I think not only am I
well,
taking
that's the thing is, it's crazy. Just a week ago, my answer to my favorite athlete of all time. If I had to just wear one person's jersey for the rest of my life, it's Sid, and that's still the case. It's just I think you have to look at the other factors in that and just think, okay, at least with the Penguins, they still would have had Gino. Like I said, maybe the Stahl situation plays out differently if you're just taking Sid away. Who knows how any of that goes? But if you're taking Sid away, they might have had the first pick, not the second pick, in 2006. And
then they take Patrick Kane. Or no, he was 2007. Who was the first pick in 2006?
Was it? Was Taves 3? Or was
Taves wasn't the first overall pick? I'm pretty sure.
So then he was 3.
Yeah. So I don't know who was the first pick.
I'm looking right now.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't Taves. Because I thought Kane was number 1. They didn't have back-to-back number 1 overall picks.
Eric Johnson.
Oh.
So hopefully they still would have taken. Oh, Nicholas Backstrom, 4th overall.
It's an interesting debate, but I understand where you're coming from. I do understand that logic.
Yeah. It's just I feel like because a hockey team, you have 4 centers, and obviously none of the other 3 were on Sid's level. With quarterbacks, you have Ben, and then you have backups. Like it's not the same thing. You don't have that same depth chart you do in football as hockey.
I guess my only argument is,
I'm sure there's a ton, but
not even an argument. It's just something that I would think about.
Yeah.
If you're taking the future drafts after that into account, I think if you don't draft Ben, you have chances to draft another franchise quarterback. Meanwhile, not drafting Sid, you're not going to draft another player that's a top 5 player of all time. So that's another thing to think about, in my opinion. But
yeah, well, according to most people, they didn't even draft another top 100 player of all time.
That's true.
So
top 101. But yeah,
that's definitely the toughest question I've been asked.
I thought about that, and I was like, this is a juicy one. I'm definitely going to put that down. Tyler, who's your top 5 all time? So hockey wise, Mario Lemieux is number 1. Bobby Orr is number 2. Wayne Gretzky is number 3. Sidney Crosby is number 4, and Gordie Howe is number 5.
Is Gordie Howe really a top 5 player? Or does he just have a hat trick named after him?
I think I would say that Gordie Howe is probably a top 5 player based off different factors than just his skill level.
The amount of time he played.
There's longevity. I think when you take into his scoring and like the way he was defensively as well. I mean, obviously I'm talking about this as he played like recently, but no, I would say he's a top 5 player, but not just for his scoring. Like, because let's be real, like Wayne Gretzky's a top 5 player because he's a scorer, not because he could play defense. Because he scored more. He has more assists than anybody else has points. Mm-hmm. So I think they're top 5 players for different reasons, but I think he still is in the top 5 when you're talking about those guys.
You know who I would take him out for? Another hot take people are gonna come at me for. Because it's another current player.
Ovechkin.
Yep. I think if you're the best goal scorer of all time, and in my opinion, he is. Which is, I understand that that's literally what he does. You talk about guys that don't really play defense.
He averaged 200 points per season for 6 years. We're talking about how? Because if that's the case, I didn't know that.
I don't know. They played with empty nets. Oh, Gretzky. Yeah.
Oh, I know Gretzky did.
Yeah.
So here's, I will always say Gretzky is the best scorer in terms of getting points of all time. However, and I will concede that he is the greatest, quote, I'm putting that in quotes, greatest player of all time when you put in terms of his point totals and the 4 cups that he won in Edmonton. However, I consider Mario Lemieux the more skilled player, which is why I have him number 1. I think he's overall more skilled than Wayne Gretzky.
I think just his body size, like he was tougher to defend. Like anybody that played against both those guys say that. They were different, but because of Mario's build, he was harder to defend against. He could do literally anything he wanted with a puck on a stick. But anyways,
he's also right-handed.
I would have the same 4 as you, but OV for me is already top 5.
Yeah, and anybody who wants to say that Sid isn't in top 5, because I know there's still a lot of people out there that wants to like put him down. The
list that I was looking at, just to get an idea of some names, had him as 4. So
yeah, well, but I know there's people out there that don't want to put him at top 5 or still question if he is at that number 5 spot. And like, I don't even think he's at the number 5 spot. I think he's at least the number 4 spot. And if you want to talk about different eras you play in, you could probably argue that he's higher than that. I mean, I think there's no way anybody has ever had the hockey IQ he has. I don't care how many points Gretzky has. He did not have Sid's hockey IQ.
It's just such a tough thing because you can't do it. You can't go back in time and see what Sid would be like against that level of competition. And that's why it's just like
Sid would average 4 points a night.
But I think about like the goalies now too, like how good they would be back then. If you put like Andre Vasilevsky back against those guys, like how good would he be? So it's tough. But this actually had Howe as 7. So it had Ovechkin at 5. It also had somebody else before Howe, and it's a different Detroit defenseman.
Listen, I have no problem.
You know who it is?
A Detroit defenseman?
Yeah.
Or a Detroit player?
Detroit defenseman.
Nick Lidstrom?
Yep.
I feel like as soon as you said defenseman, that was easy.
Yeah, like who else could it be? Nick Cronwall? But Sid said that he's the best defenseman he's ever gone up against.
Well, yeah, I've seen people make the case that Lidstrom is better than Orr. I mean, they've tried to make the case for that. Mm-hmm. I would still have Orr in the top 3 player of all time, but I think you can argue that Lidstrom's the best defenseman to ever play.
Yeah. I mean, he had the longevity too, but he played 22 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Also, Sid said Brian Rafalski, very underrated defenseman in terms of all time. I never really think about him though, until I think about Sid's interview on Spit and Chicklets where he said that. But that was a lot more conversation than I expected to have on that, especially since we had already wrapped up. But thanks for the conversation.
He's no Smitty size duck though.
That's true. That's very true. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Keats Barbershop, if you're ever in the area. Keats Barbershop is located at 180 Brighton Avenue in Rochester, PA. He's open 11 to 7 Tuesday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturday. And every Tuesday, he does $5 off for military personnel, first responders, and nurses. Again, that's Keats Barbershop at 180 Brighton Avenue in Rochester, PA. Any closing thoughts?
Oh, that was a lot to talk about. It's fun to talk about not just our sports teams, especially when the only sports team we have to talk about is about to go on a 10-game losing streak.
Oh, they lost already. Yeah.
Oh, did they? 10-game official. But it is what it is. 66 over 99. That's my closing thoughts, since that's the most recent thing in my head. You heard it here first. Smitty hates Sidney Crosby. He chose Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah. No, but people are. I can't wait to see if people come at me for that. That's the toughest question I've had to answer. And either way, I was going to be upsetting people. But yeah, shout out to everybody for giving us questions. We had, I think, like 25 or so. So everybody that helped us put this show together, we can't thank you enough. Ended up being one of our longer episodes. We're over an hour and a half right now. So to wrap things up, we just got to thank you guys again for listening to this episode of Around the 412, which has been a presentation of Crowworthy, where winners are serving winners coast to coast with sports, gambling, fantasy, and so much more. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Around the 412. Follow them at Crowworthy Takes, and visit the Pittsburgh City page at crowworthy.com for podcasts just like this one, blogged by your boys, and many more, and a ton of other great stuff. Go check it out. Until next time, we'll see you then.